I wrote an op-ed article that may or may not show up in tomorrow's Sentinel, but I'll read it to you anyway. And I don't normally read things, I'll usually just speak from the heart, but I want this to be understood. One day as I was walking down Pacific Garden Mall, I was walking toward a white woman carrying a baby about 8 or 9 months old. As she approached me, she gripped her baby tighter and turned her body away from me. And while it kind of hurt my feelings, my overriding feelings were of sadness for a child that may fear black people in his future and have no idea why. He may not consciously remember that day on the mall, but it may possibly affect his relationships with black men for the rest of his life. He may end up shooting an unarmed black teen and feel totally justified because he did feel threatened. The society tells him you should fear black men. After all, the prisons are full of them. But according to everybody from Ted Nugent to the United States Supreme Court, racism is over. Like they say, come on, we have a black president. That's proof racism is over. But black people are 12% of the general population and 39% of the prison population. Way too many white people think they must have done something. There's no way we could be making that many mistakes. However, a black man will get 4 times the sentence for the same offense as a white man, even though drug use for black and white men is roughly the same. Actually, white men do more drugs than black men. Chances are a drug bust will involve a black or brown man with a small amount of drugs. I could give you a lot of statistics that prove institutional racism exists. And that's the problem. We, people of color, have to continually prove over and over and over, decade after decade, that the system is racist. When people remark racism is dead, my first reaction is to ask what they have done to kill it. But I know I shouldn't say that because I'm kind of smart ass, so I don't say that. But because we know the system is racist, black men have to have, quote, the talk, unquote, with our sons. We have to tell them to be respectful of police almost to the point of being subservient. We have to teach them to move slowly and loudly announce their intentions if they're reaching for their ID. We have to teach them about their white friends getting legal rates they will never get, so they have to be more careful. That when police pull up, they will walk up to you first, ignoring your white buddies. And when telling this, all the while we're choking back tears because we're still having to tell them this shit. That's because of what he is, he's automatically suspicious because he's in the wrong place, a place where white folks with money live. When my son was younger, we were walking down Capitola Road and the traffic had stopped. And as we passed the car, we heard a clunking sound come from the car of a white woman. My son asked what that sound was. I told him that was the sound of fear. That she was locking her car doors in the middle of the afternoon because she was afraid of us. His reaction was, Dad, what does she think I'm gonna do? I'm 8 years old. It hurt his feelings. He was 8, but he was learning what prejudice was. I cried a little and I died a little on the inside. Race has been such an intractable problem for so long, some white people have declared themselves colorblind, wiping out a whole race's experience just to make themselves feel better. You cannot be colorblind. And you cannot be colorblind in America because there is no such thing. You can become willfully ignorant of the consequences and effects of racism, but you cannot become colorblind without becoming just plain old blind. There are still people that will actually deny that black men are the most targeted people in the country and have been for centuries. One day African American men will get to stop having to talk with our sons, but only after the regions far are gone. I'm under no illusions that this is going to happen soon. I've been living in America for 60 years. I do see movement against prejudice and racism among our young people, but the problem is not interpersonal, it's institutional. That doesn't change easily or quickly, obviously. And it will never change if we don't acknowledge the problem. And if you're a young black man, there is no denying there is a problem. They're not statistics, they're people that need to be heard, need to be listened to, need to be united with, need to become allies of. Once again, America, we have a chance to rise to the occasion as would Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, or we can sink to the level of the Bill O'Reillys and Ted Nugents. What are we going to do? Now, that was op-ed. But there's a couple of things as a member of the NAACP and Santa Cruz Community Coalition to Overcome Racism, and on the board of directors of CAB, Community Action Board. This is 2013. We still have never had a black city council person in Santa Cruz City.
I voted for you.
Thank you. A lot of people did this over 3 different times, because I ran for city council 3 times. And what I saw was money talk. We know that. So as a member of the NAACP, these other groups, I want us to start pushing that we stop having private money for public elections. It doesn't make sense to me. Because people that are poor stay poor. People, upper middle class white folks that have money, their friends have money. So when they get $23,000 to run their campaign, and I and other people can only raise $6,000, it's not fair. It's not right. We need to stop having privately financed elections. They need to be publicly financed, and we need to raise hell with our city council until we get that. The other thing, Tony Madra was the last person of color elected to Santa Cruz City Council, and he may be literally the last person of color elected to the City Council, because Santa Cruz is getting more and more conservative by the day. However, if we have district elections, we can almost be sure we will get at least a Latino council person, especially if they cut it up and be classed as a district. But as it is now, people of color are never going to get elected because we can't raise the money, and we can't go to all these neighborhoods because we're not accepted in all these neighborhoods. I'm the 3rd black person who run for city council that I know of, Patrick Clark, who's a very, not conservative, but he's not very liberal. He's a kind of a conservative black man. They didn't vote for him. I'm damn sure not conservative. They didn't vote for me. I'm not sure what these white folks want in Santa Cruz because we can't give it to them, whatever the hell it is. So, to me, the thing we need to do is make sure we have publicly financed elections. $7,500 is a lot of money to run an election. And we usually have 8 or 10 people running. If you give $7,500 to 10 people, that's only 75 grand. I think our rights are worth 75 grand. What do you think?
Yes.
You know, that's why they told us we couldn't have a police review board, because it costs too much money. Then they went and hired somebody from San Jose, an auditor, that cost the same amount as the police review board. But they don't want a police review board because we know what happens in Santa Cruz. I've spoken with Lieutenant Person, who's the head of the SWAT team in Santa Cruz. And he said he's an African-American man. And he said, when I come to Santa Cruz, right on my uniform on, I'm stopped. I said, really? He said, yes, constantly. And he is the head of the SWAT team. He's a lieutenant in the highway patrol. They don't care. He's black. They don't care what he is as long as he has a uniform on. So those 2 things I would like for you to help me support, and the NAACP and other organizations to support us to get publicly financed elections and to have district elections, so we will at one point have a person of color on our city council, because like I said, this place is getting more and more conservative. If we don't do it now, it'll never get done. Thank you all for being here.
All right. Thank you, Simba. Yeah. Simba is a